The RCMP will be getting nearly $50 million over the next 3 years to ramp up investigations related to the harassment and intimidation of immigrant diaspora communities in Canada.
We're going to continue to make sure that our security services, that our police, that our investigative agencies have the resources necessary to respond to the very real and ongoing threats of foreign interference.
Meanwhile, since new allegations of interference attempts from China surfaced weeks ago, one of the key questions at the center of the controversy is intelligence evidence. And what's the gap between the intelligence and the evidence police forces need to prosecute and lay criminal charges? With me now, Interim RCMP Commissioner Michael Duheme. Hi, Commissioner. Good to talk to you again. Thank you for making the time.
Good morning, Vashi. A pleasure being here.
I have a number of questions for you, sir, about the report, of course, into the 2020 mass shooting. But I actually wanted to start off on a different topic, one that's dominated politics here in Ottawa for more than a month, and that is, of course, allegations of foreign interference. You told a committee that the RCMP has not received any actionable evidence that would warrant a criminal investigation in either of the last 2 elections. I just was hoping you could define for us in layman's terms, what does actionable mean?
Well, actionable intelligence would be information that would allow us to begin a criminal investigation. That's what I meant when I said actionable intelligence. So there could be information or intelligence that's shared with us that we cannot action it, cannot bring it in a criminal investigation, and an actionable information would be something that we can launch into a criminal investigation. In
either of the last 2 elections or following them, has any information been passed to you? Period. So I understand from what you're saying that it's not evidence that was actionable to you, but was there intelligence shared with you about allegations of interference?
I don't recall, Vashi, if there was anything handed to me or transmitted to me. I really don't recall.
Has anything been brought to your attention since the media started reporting on this about 6 weeks ago?
I don't recall anything other than the overseas police station in Montreal that's made its way up after that period when I was at Parliamentary Committee.
A 2021 report, commissioned by the National Security and Intelligence Review Agency, flagged issues in communication and intelligence sharing between Canada's spy agency, CSIS, and the RCMP. It concluded that frontline RCMP investigators derive little benefit from CSIS's work. Do you think that's the case?
I think we have to understand both mandates that are involved here. We have an excellent relationship with the service. And the reality is that the service collects some information that we cannot use in a criminal investigation. So it's informative, but sometimes we cannot use it, and we look at different mitigating tools that the service or us can put in place.
What are your thoughts personally on that? Like, do you find it a challenge? Do you think that there is sort of an impediment right now to being able to use intelligence as evidence? Would you like to be able to use more of it?
Oh, definitely, we would like to use more of it. But the challenge sometimes we face is how that intelligence is collected. You don't want to reveal any trade secrets of how this is collected. And again, for a criminal investigation, you have to be able to demonstrate how the investigation began. And with the full and frank disclosure that we face in any files that we bring before the courts, that is challenging sometimes when you want to use some intelligence that's not accessible or cannot be used for law enforcement purposes.
And is there a workaround? Like, is it a legislative solution? Is there another type of workaround that you're looking at?
I believe there is efforts to be made to change legislation. As I said, this has been discussed for numerous years. And there's good work that's been done with the service and as well as the RCMP, but I think we have to take it one step further and really drill down and see what are the options so we can overcome the question of intel into evidence.
I'm sure you're aware of the kind of level of concern of Canadians as they read about these allegations. And I know you and other national security officials have said, look, this isn't a new problem. And I certainly acknowledge that. But I'm wondering if you, just sort of in your role, having read all the types of allegations that have come forward, the degree to which it is being alleged China is attempting to interfere in our electoral processes, if you are concerned, if you think an inquiry would be warranted.
So I'm very concerned. I've seen it through a criminal lens as to what we've been involved with, foreign actor interference. And I also see it through when the service briefs the round table at the deputy minister level. So yes, I am very concerned. And to the point where if there's an inquiry required for that, well, I'm not one to judge that. That would be up to the Minister of Public Safety and government.
Okay, Commissioner, on the report into the 2020 mass casualty. I know that we spoke last week. You had the report a day earlier, but you were busy on the ground meeting with, as you said, victims' family members as well as first responders. Have you had a chance now to look through some of it? Granted, it's a very long one, but through some of it?
Yes, Vashi, it is a long one, and after a long day yesterday, I started going through volume number 5, which is really specific to policing. And I just want to follow up the conversation we had. My team had received, first of all, we weren't sure if a copy would be given before the tabling of the report. And when we actually received it, which was on Wednesday, the executive summary was received around 9:30, and then at 10:30 we received the full document. And I was being brief of the general themes that were found in the report. But I didn't have enough in-depth knowledge to actually go in there and talk about the recommendations, because my priority, as I shared with you, was really to go and see the crime scene that took place on April 18th and 19th, 2020, that's never been seen in Canadian history, and really get a better understanding of what the victims' families, our employees, the survivors actually went through, and have a better understanding as where these recommendations are stemming from. Because I did have a chance to talk to some employees who were the first responders there, and it gave me a better insight of the challenge that they faced when they got there.
And I acknowledge that, and like I said when I spoke with you earlier, like I get that it was a big document and it was the day before. I think that for some people who were listening to it on the face of it, though, to hear from both you and the head of the Nova Scotia RCMP that you hadn't read it yet was a bit disconcerting. And in fact, some of the family members reached out to us to say they were a little disappointed to hear that. I'm wondering what your message today is to them.
Well, my message to them is I am committed to go through the entire document. And as I mentioned during the press conference, I'm also committed to make sure that all the recommendations that are there, that we follow up on them, that we show progress on the recommendations, and that the public can follow the progress of the recommendation, the work we're doing on the recommendation, through a website that we will have. And we talk about trust, accountability, that to me is building trust with Nova Scotians and the accountability side with Nova Scotians and Canadians.
And I appreciate that, and I'm sure Canadians will be glad to hear that all of that will be made public. I wanted to get your sense on a specific area of the recommendations, particularly around guns and ammunition. And I know you're not going to say, okay, we'll follow through on recommendations X, Y, and Z right now, but I just sort of wanted to put them generally to the side and get your sense as someone who leads our national police force on whether or not you think, for example, I'll just tell our viewers right now, the Commission is recommending an amendment to the criminal code to prohibit all semi-automatic handguns and rifles and shotguns that discharge center fire ammunition, amendments to the Firearms Act to require a license to have ammunition and to limit people to owning ammunition for the weapon they're licensed to have, federal limits on stockpiling ammunition. A lot of this comes from exactly what the perpetrator was able to do, right? How much ammunition he had at his disposal. Do you overall think that those efforts combined would be a good thing?
I think, Vashi, any efforts to amend the criminal code to make it safer for our members or any law enforcement personnel when they're out there, as well as the citizens across the country, any amendment to the criminal code that makes it safer for us to operate and for the population, I think that's always a really good thing. And I would be very supportive of that. So
more restrictions, for example, on ammunition or people's ability to access it from where you sit would lead to better outcomes?
Well, I think we, again, have not read that specific recommendation, but any measures that we brought forward to ensure that the public safety is safer, I'm very supportive. Very supportive.
Okay, Commissioner, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much, Vashi.